So yeah, Priscilla, giving you the mic.
Yeah, we have a mic, obviously. Hi, my name is Pri. I'm a marketing director of Blackpool Finance. We're a digital asset manager, but we recently also launched a seed club where we act as an intermediary between upcoming gaming project, but also the community, so they can participate in rounds before the token generation event. I'm obviously here with one of my colleagues, Heidi, and then I'll let the rest introduce themselves as well. As a start, you want to go first, Heidi, or do we start with Fred?
Yeah, so I think you gave up a bit of background as to Blackpool, but I go by the name of Heidi. My real name's Grant. I work alongside Craig at Blackpool, looking after various operational activities from the vertical management side.
You have to take a bit closer.
The vertical management side of things, looking after the treasury activity and so on. So as Pre said, we have a lot of strands to our bow Blackpool, looking more at a seed club activity going forward. Yeah, it's an interesting place to be.
And then we go to Fred.
Hi, I'm Fred from FunFair Ventures. So basically we're a private VC. We've been in the blockchain space for, I think, 8 years, building products on chain, and the last 2.5 years we've been supporting early stage startups, and my focus is gaming, so work quite closely with the BGA.
And Leopold, Cometh.
Well, I'm Leopold, the CFO and the head of compliance at Cometh. Cometh is a startup historically in the gaming industry. We've built the first fully on-chain game on Polygon in 2020. And then a lot of people from the gaming and entertainment industry says, okay, we want the same experience. So we've spin out a new project on B2B side to sell our technology as a service through an SDK and APIs to let people, and especially gaming industry, onboard millions of users on the Web3 gaming.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So let's just dive into the topic immediately. It's obviously like Web3 gaming, fad or future. Over the past few years, there's obviously been a lot of polarizing takes on Web3 gaming. So I just kind of want to start with, well, as we say in Dutch, a foot in the door. Like, is Web3 gaming a fad or is it the future? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So for me, definitely the future. I think we've seen lots of iterations over the last couple of years. I think we've seen a lot of failed projects, a lot of quick successful ideas that have not quite materialised into full fruition and to where we'd like that to get to. 2023 was quite a strange year for Web3 gaming. I think we saw quite a bit of a downturn in the total value in that market, but I think we're definitely nowhere near close where Web3 gaming can get to, blockchain gaming in general. So I think we're currently somewhere in the region of 4 to 7 billion locked in the top 200 gaming projects. I think there's no reason to not expect that could 100x in the next 10 years. I think the next couple of years we might see some slower movement. I don't think over the next 6 to 12 months, for example, we'll see any major development in that space. I think it will be more about just user acquisition, general growth to the particular space. Over maybe the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see the regulation and a lot of the technological advances coming into the space that will enable us to bring the masses on board. That will include obviously big brands coming into the space, but I think the technological enablers will be one of the keys to drive that. It's something that will take time. We do need to grow the space, but yeah, that's where I think for that.
Awesome. Did you want to say something about that, Fred, as well?
I think I always get really confused when we name things like GameFi. Gaming space is a thing. It's much bigger than people understand it is, correct? It's bigger than the industry, the EV industry, by quite a lot. So I think to me, I kind of look at it, how can the blockchain technology fit games? And I think the problem is we haven't actually figured out how that works. Yeah. So we're in a very early stage. I would say it's going to take a couple of years to even get to, well, let's say 2, 3, 5% of the revenue of the gaming industry in games that use blockchain technology, right? Yeah. And I think it's a loaded question because, yes, games are a thing. They are successful, they generate revenue. How you apply the blockchain technology to it, very early days.
Early days, yeah. So, since you're kind of the VC on the panel, like, what type of investment trends are you seeing? Like, and like, has your investment thesis changed compared to like a few years ago, or?
I think when we started, and because we have a background in gaming and gambling, and we've all been in the gaming industry for too long, when we started, we looked at it very differently. Nowadays, in the last year and a half, my view has been that lower cost games are probably a better investment in terms of testing the waters and seeing what works.
Oh, interesting.
Because the reality is, like I said at the beginning, if it's a new technology, it hasn't been explored enough to know what will work with gamers and what will work in games. So investing in big projects is just a much bigger risk. Investing in smaller studios, they also have the experience. So when you ask what changed, what I've seen is a lot of Web2s, traditional gaming studios coming into the space, wanting to build games. People that actually have the experience. Also seeing the traditional gaming market really crash, and a lot of people that lost their jobs coming into this space and saying, okay, well, actually, I know how to make a game. Let me make it better game. So mobile.
Yours died?
Mobile, small, casual, low cost projects.
Yeah, makes sense. So that kind of brings me to kind of my next question, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about like Ton blockchain, about all these mini games that people are playing, are they games? And it kind of reminded me of kind of the snake games that people were playing on Nokia. Yeah, because I'm that old. But like, how do you guys see that developing? Like, when you talk about like low-cost mobile games, is that the direction that you see it growing into? And what is your view on those games on the Ton blockchain?
So I don't want to take the whole time of the panel, but I did some research recently. I did a gaming investment panel, and actually mobile gaming is the biggest chunk of the market. Of the gaming space by far, correct? I think the snake is a really interesting example because it is actually predates the mobile gaming. We were at GDC and there was someone talking about when she started discussing mobile games, nobody believed in them, right?
Yeah.
I think, yes.
You want to take this one? Which that one?
So I think that's where I see it. Now, my concern, and we've been actually looking at Ton for several years now in Telegram. The problem is, I think we're mixing things here. In my view, is this simple. Yes, Web3 needs users, so why not go to a platform that already has users? But then, is it the right platform? Users use platform for specific targets and goals, right? Just because it's a messaging app doesn't mean that it's now becoming a super app. The Western culture doesn't have a culture of super apps like the Asian cultures, right? So I think it's interesting, and Pantera, which is one of the biggest VCs in the Web3 space and blockchain space, has made their biggest investment in Ton and Telegram.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's going to be a super app. And as such, I think it's an interesting thing because it makes perfect sense. Is it going to work? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyone else that wants to, Leopold?
Yeah, I totally agree with Fred says. Just before everything, as you can read, we are not very familiar with Ton. We are Ethereum.
Eat Maxis.
Yeah. Not as Fred says, you have different platforms for different use cases, and in terms of gaming, Discord, Twitch are already winning the game of attracting players, and in the blockchain, from blockchain point of view, you will focus on where are the liquidity. So obviously, you're going to track chain where there is a lot of value, like Tron, with a lot of USDT transferred every day. But there is not such a developed ecosystem for developers than you have on Ethereum. And today on an ecosystem like Ethereum, you have layer 2, layer 3, you have AppChain, you have a very large scale of tools to develop your application and your Web3 application. So I think that the bias is to focus on TVL and to focus on cryptos instead of the technology and the use case.
Yeah. So are you saying that you think it makes more sense to develop on an Ethereum layer as opposed to all these other alternative L1s?
Yeah, I think Yeah, I think so. Just for the community of developers, the reputation of solidity of smart contracts, and the capacity of what you do, and everything has been proved. And I think that it's obvious that the next big thing will be on Ethereum. And if you have a look at all the layer 1, non-EVM layer 1, they are all building layer 2 EVM to bridge people and to attract people from Ethereum community.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does anyone want to react to that?
Yeah, just say I agree with all of the points there. I do think there is definitely a space for Ton and other blockchains, and ETH is where you want developers to be spending their time. I think we're seeing more interesting projects in that space, definitely in the L2 landscape. We've seen for the last few months, last year or so, lots of really interesting developments on L1 and L2. I think there's definitely a place for mobile gaming. It might be, I don't think it's a game changer for the space, but it might be a short-term way of getting some users into blockchain gaming via that avenue. But yeah, I don't think it is going to be life-changing. I may be wrong. ETH might.
So I'm going to do the usual thing and actually mess up the panel here. I actually disagree with not the Ethereum, but to me it always goes back to when we go shopping on Amazon, we actually don't care what their databases are, correct? We go there because of the features they provide the user. And my point is, what does it matter which chain it is for a gamer, correct? Because at the end of the day, the gamer actually doesn't care about the number of transactions, the DVL of the chain and all that stuff. If we kind of start thinking about it the other way around, which is the tendency that we have in the crypto space, which is think about the tokens as opposed to think about the users, then that makes perfect sense, correct? But when we think about the users, actually we need to kind of push the technology a little bit under the hood, and which I think is completely different than talking about Ton as an app, which is a medium to deploying games. And when you sent the questions, I actually was thinking about something. I'm not sure how many people use Discord, but I've been using Discord for, God, too many years, because I've been in the gaming space. Discord had actually games built in recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I have a big group of friends, and we kind of are on Discord a lot of times, and we tried it when it came out. But it was so brief. It was like, blick, and that's it. We never played it again. And that's...
Maybe mine is the only one. Well, you just have to speak harder. I don't want to make that joke.
This is back working. So my point is, each medium has its own audience, and I think we need to stop thinking too much about which chains and focus more on which users and what are they using and why we're building on those things. So that's just kind of to disagree a little bit and be a little bit more dynamic here.
Well, I mean, Leopold, I'm coming back to you because I mean, I think Cometh, you guys are actually focusing on kind of like abstracting kind of the technology a little bit away for people to get onboarded easier, I guess. Like, what are the challenges that you guys are seeing when it comes to like blockchain and integrating that with game design? Like,
well, the truth is that we've been step by step. The first game was fully on chain, and we relied on Wallet Connect, and we only address people from Web3, so OGs from crypto. But it's not scalable because when you have to wait 6 or 12 seconds to block validation to have an action on game, we say okay, it's not really scalable. So we've decided to put out some features of the game off-chain, and then we focused on gaming and, as you said, on users. And we said, okay, how could we bring people from Web 2 to the Web 3? And we say, okay, mobile experience. We have to think how people play today. So we have a deep dive on the subject, and we have heard about the standards that called passkeys that enable people to do their daily action through biometric signature on the phone, meaning that you just have to put the face or finger on the phone, and then you can buy something, you can sign a message on chain. So we focused on these features, and it was something very impressive because we were able to onboard more than 100k people in 6 months on the beta version of the game, only with some hacks around the onboarding. Because the second problem we had was also the crypto. When you interact with blockchain, your users need crypto. So basically, how do you do? Do you send ETH? Do you ask people to make unramp to lose 20% because it will be given to the unramp actor? So we've built a real layer infrastructure just to sponsor the transaction. So it was very it was very hard for us, and it was deep work of user discovery to understand at which step of the onboarding people were dropping, and why we had maybe 1 million people clicking on the link, but at the end only 100k playing the game. So abstraction thanks to metrics, thanks to nature, and then transaction fees sponsoring.
Awesome. Did anyone want to react on that?
I don't want to react, but I just find it crazy, and I think I've said this in so many panels. So, as I said, we've been in this space as FunFair for a long time. We built the first casino on Ethereum 8 years ago, okay? And my job was actually to solve these problems that he's talking about. So I'm here almost 8 years later talking exactly about the same thing. So that to me is fundamental. We can't actually talk about Web3 gaming when every single month, every single event, every single conference and panel, the biggest problem is exactly that. It's just there is no good experience, and worst, it's the change should be building these things and should be putting it out there. And I see game studios struggling with this. We have a big development team, or had a much bigger development team. So we built this technology 7, 8 years. How is it that we're still talking about it? Come on, we have reusable rockets, we have electric cars, right? We're still talking about blockchain onboarding and on-ramping. It's just mind-blowing, and that to me is the biggest problem. It's not if GameFi or Web3 gaming is a fad, is that we're still trying to use a technology that seems to be miles away from usability.
Yeah, but yet we try to use it. Like, why is that then? Like, why are we trying to put, because it comes back to that fad or future thing. Like, why are we trying to integrate blockchain into this gaming thing? If
There's tons of potential value added for the user, right? It makes sense. But I kind of ignoring the crypto lunacy and token price and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The technology itself made sense for a lot of things. I just don't think that we're in the same mindset. The people that are building chains and doing a lot of things to build the fundamentals aren't really aligned with the user stuff. When they talk about mass market, they really don't mean it, because they've already did a big ICO back in the day. They made billions out of it. So even if you look at the roadmap, a lot of them are not aligned with what the actual basic person needs to have to use their technology. I know a couple that are focusing on that, but it's not a substantial enough effort.
You want to say something, Javi? Or?
Yeah, I think we're right. We're seeing a lot of games that try to integrate blockchain technology almost as if it has to be done, rather than trying to think about the user experience first and foremost. And I think some of the most successful projects, so thinking for example, Sorare, they've been really light on the Web3 side of things. The users don't really feel like they're playing a blockchain game. They are playing a fantasy football game. I think that's key to really getting users pinned into that space. They don't, people don't really care the ins and outs of the Amazon website, how that is made. They care about the item they're going to buy, and I think that's similar with the games that we see. You don't necessarily need to have that really present to the user. If you can hide that within the UX a little bit, I think then it really does make a significant difference. I think that obviously talks to the large scale games, the games that are wanting to attract that mass market, but there is obviously a place for fully on-chain gaming, and I think that's a completely different concept. It's something that you want to allow people to interact with the blockchain. That can be quite an interesting component. within the game itself, with time-bound elements, being able to actually mint items and transfer them between users, but doing so in a fashion that it feels more pure. Certainly in fully on-chain games, who are responsible for the direction of the platform, the direction that a game may go. So looking at something like Influence, very similar to EVE Online in a traditional gaming world, but that game will evolve and it will adapt depending on user decisions, and so very much so the users will dictate how that ecosystem evolves over the next 4 or 5 years, 10 years, if it's successful, and I think that's quite an interesting thing to see. So some games are going to benefit massively from having that real on-chain presence and feel off. This is a blockchain game. Others should probably hide it a lot more underneath the hood.
Yeah. Okay. How much time do we have left? 10? Okay. So I have a few statements, because there are a few statements that I actually asked at Paris Games Week, which is more of a traditional kind of conference. So I want to see what you guys' opinion are on these statements. Right. Okay. So blockchain will unlock economic opportunities for gamers all over the world to make a living doing what they love.
Yeah, I think that can be said to be true. I think we've seen failed attempts where short term there's been value given to communities playing a particular game, but at the end of the day the models were maybe not quite aligned. But I think user generated content and the ability for content creators and there we go. And the ability for content creators to genuinely make items within games, make content, make a presence, sell accounts onto the community. I think that there's definitely a huge opportunity there that exists in traditional markets. We see people try to monetize, and it normally has happen out with the game itself. We see people buying and selling, trading items on eBay, but I think the ability to do that internally within a game and to have a creator community aligned to your game could be really, really valuable, both for the project itself, but also for user being able to retain your users longer term. They feel part of your community. They want to build something alongside that. So you see it happen in a lot of games. You'll have content creators. They're very much they play the game. They make a lot of media about it, but they're not really doing that inside the game itself. It's about videoing them playing a particular game for hours and hours and sharing content that way. This blockchain opens up an opportunity to maybe share content in a slightly different way, to craft items in game yourself. So going back to Influence, that will be very much a creator community where there'll be different factions who will need to come together and create different items, and you'll see shops forming and all sorts of innovation there from the users themselves. So I think it's going to be interesting.
I feel, Freddie, you're itching to say no. I don't agree.
No, I'm going to let him.
Leopold, you want to go?
Yeah. I think that it's a logical shift. This is a new paradigm for gaming editors. 70 years ago, they sold a machine arcade to a bar and restaurant. Then they sold software directly to the player that you had to install with the CD-ROM and so on. Now they try to have a recurring revenue with subscription, with Xbox and so on. And I think that the next business model for gaming editors will be that you do not provide a game, you provide a field. The players own the game, and then they have a field where they can have a kind of circular economy, because they buy primary market their assets, and then they can expect to have a kind of compensation by selling them to new players, to other players on the secondary market, and you just have to put the game on chain and then deal with it off, and then I think the future, the review from a timeline is this for game will be this. They are tired, toxic.
Awesome. Fred?
So I disagree Well, I think the question, my answer would be no, not about the money. I do agree with that, what they said, which is actually quite different. So I think the question comes more from play to earn, from Max Infinity style of games, okay? So, and on that respect, it's a complete no, that's just the most crazy concept that doesn't apply to the 6 billion people that play games, okay? Now, user-generated content is quite different, and yes, I think that's a massive thing. It's been done for ages with mods and content creators, and I think there's a lot.
And can people, because I mean, my question or statement was, can people actually make a living from whatever item playing or?
You know, you can pick whatever topic, correct? Pick YouTubers, 1% of them make a living, the others don't, correct? You pick anything, there's always 1% that makes and the others don't. I think with user-generated content, there's the possibility to have, and I just don't think it's all about the money, especially with games. It's about the fun and entertainment. Like you mentioned EVE Online. I played EVE Online for 8 years. The communities are gigantic. My corporation or the alliance where I was in was more than 120,000 players. We generated content outside of the game to play and interact. That's user-generated content, correct? But we didn't make it for the money, we made it for fun. So I think that's a different thing. Yes, if some people can make money out of that content, it exists and I'm fine with that. What I just don't want to see is people assuming that because you game, you want to make money, and as such everything needs to be, now you're a gamer, we can also make money. And I think that's also been the reason why there's been a lot of pushback. Because people look at it and say, wait, how am I going to make money? No, there's more to this. And then they push back and they don't want to get involved. And NFTs is a good example how it blew up a little bit on people's face and how it's kind of not even seen as accepted.
Cities, what's very interesting because in the French ecosystem, the regulator
firstly considered Web3 gaming as gambling. They were okay, SOA and so on, or gambling. And us, we were like, no, it's gaming, entertainment. And finally, this year, there is the first, I think it's the first in the world, regulation on specifically Web3 gaming that we call JONU, for, in English could be Jedi, a game with digital items, exchangeable digital items. And this is a law specifically to give a frame for gaming, where you can have exchange, when you can monetize, and you have part of the community who want to just have fun, and part of the community who is here to speculate. So this gray zone has been regulated in France, and since 1 month we have the JONUM regulation saying that if you have the both perspective of monetization, but you can also just have fun, it's called a JONUM.
Yeah, so the UK, which Michael before in another panel was saying heavily regulated, especially in the gambling area, there's very clear distinction between gambling, which is anything that is not skill-based, right? And that's what you were talking about. And again, I think there's value in using generated content. And if I spend 10 grand on a game and after 5-7 years I'm done with the game, yeah, sure, I should be able to grab my assets and sell them or give them to someone else, right? That's fine. I don't think that's a problem, but I would be very careful. And on top of that, I can tell you one thing. It's brutal, super hard to make games that have these kind of things without breaking their games economies. That's why a lot of games don't allow external input or outputs of cash. It becomes a big problem. So I think that's also another issue, right? It's not easy to build games with these kind of economies, open economies, because they become broken very quickly or abused.
I think we're kind of running out of time. Like I think just to come back to what you said about like these in-game purchases, like being able to have residual value. Like is that something that you guys all believe that at some point people could see those in-game purchases as investments, as assets that could accrue value over time, or is that not? Is it just a matter of I own something and I resell it like you'd resell something on eBay? Or is it something that you guys feel could actually like obtain value over time?
Yeah, I think it really does vary, depending on the game you're talking about. But I think touched on, it's quite dangerous if we assume that every item or every game that we're playing is going to be something that we can extract value from. I think first and foremost we should be building games that are fun, people want to play, and if there is an avenue to monetization there, as you said, it might not be everyone within the game. There's going to have to be losers. It might be 1%, it might be 10% that are able to extract some level of value from a particular game. I think that is quite important and will always exist there, but first and foremost you need to build games that people want to play. Otherwise they aren't going to last the test of time. They are just going to, as we see, fall and crumble, like your Axie Infinity models and others that we've seen over the last few years. I think a lot of games are still trying to figure out how to bring these forms into these monetization tools into games and allow people to buy and sell assets in a way, but yeah, so far not seen an awful lot of evidence that it's really sustainable. Hopefully over the coming years we'll maybe see some new innovation, ways of making that a little bit less all-encompassing in the game and something that does exist within an aspect of the game, but it's still very much a game that you play for enjoyment, for fun, for the social elements of that, and whether some people can extract some value or not, then so be it.
I actually find, I'm not sure how many of you have skins in games or assets in games. I have, and spent several thousands pounds in in-game assets, and I loved it. And some of them actually I earned by being in that game at certain specific times, and I look at it and say, "Oh, this is super cool." Now, would I want to sell it? Maybe not. Would it be worth more? Maybe. For what? How many of you guys have bought a EVE Online ship? Probably nobody, correct? So you actually don't know any of the ships. So if I told you, hey, I have a ship on EVE Online, you want to buy it? And you're like, no. So I think the interest is for other people that are in that game, correct? And not for everyone. So there's a value, yes. And it could be resold and all of that stuff. I think there's mechanics for it. One of the things that we do at the company is actually have conversations about these topics. Blue sky thinking and talking and trashing NFTs and trashing projects and talking about technology and does this make any sense? One of the things that happens a lot is you get skins and in-game assets and you don't like them. Like my daughter buys Valorant and Fortnite skins and some of them are awful. She doesn't use them. But maybe what is awful for her is really cool for another. But now she can't share it. She can't, hey, here's my skin that I don't like, or hey, here's a skin that I really care about. So these kind of mechanics, I think they're really interesting, and I think there's a lack of exploration. One slight issue, which is the technology behind it, and also why I think NFTs have been a big problem. If we think that the solution to this is an NFT that actually points to a server or to whatever, and that's not a technical solution, correct? It just isn't. And people now start realizing, you're buying an image on the server. So I think there's some bits there that need to be better in order for people to actually have ownership or feel like they have ownership and not just being, hey, here's 500 for an NFT that says you own that skin, which is kind of different.
That makes sense.
Just to add something, that I think everything was already said, but when you are a gaming editor, approximately 20%, maybe 30% of gaming development is about artistic development. For instance, we have two people in-house at Cometh who daily develop the assets, the environment, the ship, and so on. And it is a significant part of your expenses. And when, as a player, I get a new collection and I have specifically this spaceship or this ship from EVE Online or anything else, sometimes you just, it's normal to give value to this, because it could be, this is the same debate with the art and the NFTs. For me, you just have to give value to that because there is artistic research and production behind it.
Finished? So we'll do the final question. What should I go with? What do you guys most excited about, like, for whatever time frame, right? It's quite hard to say where we're going to be in 1 or 2 years or 5 years. You know, we talked about that the technology isn't there yet for people to really enjoy gaming, but is there stuff that is brewing that you guys are already quite excited about that might not be there yet, but you could see like the end or the end goal? Or
Well, as a CFO, I would say that the fact that big company and big listed companies are looking at M&A to get some Web3 gaming studio, I think it's a very good green light. I've heard about some deals in Luxembourg. I can say that there is deal in progress in France. And I think that we have achieved something, because 4 years ago it was Axie, it was Sora, it was some project financed by VC, by the community directly with pre-sales of NFTs. And now we have the big actors, we have the Ubisoft, maybe Blizzard, we have Sony, we have all of the big actors from gaming that are coming with their billions of dollars, and I think that it will be very good achievement for the gaming industry.
Awesome.
I kind of agree with that, but I also think it might be dangerous as well. So these companies will come in, and how will they interact with this space? Will it be what we want to see there? I think it is exciting that something like 75% of the traditional studios are now exploring blockchain technology. But how are they going to introduce that? Are they going to stick to existing monetization models? Are they really going to focus on the end user and give value back there, as we've seen it over the last couple of years, or what we've tried to achieve in certain games over the last few years? Is it going to go back to more of the norm with them? I'm not so sure.
So, trying to break this into a couple of parts, just to not paint the awful picture I painted all of this panel about Web3 gaming and the state of the industry. It was a good year when I look back to the projects I've seen. Some of the best examples of blockchain technology being used in games I've seen in some really cool mobile games. That unfortunately we didn't manage to invest in those, but I'm seeing a lot of precious gems out there, which is really good. Again, as I said, also seeing a lot of people coming in from the traditional space. I have also seen, and I've been talking with a lot of bigger VCs, so I think we forget that in the traditional gaming side, there's traditional VCs investing in gaming studios. So we've been talking with a couple of bigger funds that are investing in the traditional space that have invested and actually co-invested with us in gaming studios in Web3, which is great, because that means actually there's a push from the traditional space to get involved, not I would say at the big deals, but at the lower level, at smaller studios that can push that forward, correct? I think, yeah, I'm still worried that we're still far from that. The conversations I've had with several chains and things lead me to believe that in a couple of years things will be better, hopefully. Otherwise I'll just commit suicide. I'm sorry if I have to hear a conversation about onboarding in 4 years. It's just crazy, correct? And then they'll kill me. They won't let me be in any panel. So yeah, I'm actually quite happy to see what's going to happen this side of the year. My only wish, which I said this in January, is just I hope that crypto prices don't go through the roof and projects valuation go crazy when the value that they're providing is still the same as it was a year ago. So a little bit of sanity, that would be my wish for the rest of the year, so we could actually support and financially support good projects.
awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Give it up for the panelists.
Thanks a lot, guys, and sorry.